Here's your story. Once upon a time, in the bustling streets of New York City, there lived a girl named Emily. Emily was 22, a dreamer. An artist who spent her days sketching strangers in Central Park and painting the sunset over the Hudson River. On the other side of the country, in sunny California, lived Ryan. He was 23, a surfer, a photographer who loved chasing waves and capturing fleeting moments through the lens of his old film camera. Fate had no reason to bring them together. They lived in different worlds, separated by thousands of miles, but fate doesn't need a reason, it just needs the right moment. That moment came one summer when Emily's best friend convinced her to take a trip to Los Angeles. She was hesitant. Emily wasn't much of a traveler, but something inside her whispered go. On the plane ride out west, she sat by the window, watching the clouds drift by. Each mile that separated her from New York felt like a victory, a triumph over the fear that had been holding her back. When she finally landed in LA, the warm California sun enveloping her like a long-lost friend, she knew she was in for an adventure. On her very first day in LA, she wandered into a small bookstore by the beach. The scent of old books and fresh coffee filled her senses as she browsed the shelves. Her fingers danced across the spines, teasing her with stories yet to be read. Then she saw it, The Great Gatsby, its gold embossed cover beckoning to her. As she reached for it, a hand brushed against hers. Startled, she looked up into the most mesmerizing blue eyes she had ever seen. The owner of those eyes, a boy with tousled brown hair and a smile that could light up the room, blushed slightly and mumbled an apology. Emily, her heart doing a little dance, realized it was the least eventful way she could have imagined meeting someone. They talked for hours over steaming mugs of coffee, their conversation flowing as easily as the waves crashing outside the window. His name was Ryan, and he was a photographer, just as she had always wanted to be. As they spoke, Emily felt a connection with him that she had never experienced before. It was as if the universe had orchestrated this meeting, weaving their paths together like the main character in one of her favorite romance novels. Over the next few days, they explored the city, hand in hand, visiting art galleries, sipping wine at sunset, and sharing dreams under the starlit sky. Ryan showed her the hidden gems of the city, the quiet cafes tucked away in residential areas, the vintage record shops with their warm, inviting lights. In the evenings, they would walk along the beach, the sand cool and soothing between their toes, the salty breeze carrying their laughter into the night. As their time together came to an end, both knew that something special had happened. It was more than just a summer fling. It was the beginning of an adventure, a journey into the unknown that they were about to embark on together. On the day Emily left, they stood at the airport, the departure gate looming before them. The usual bustle around them seemed distant, muted by the sudden hush that had fallen between them. When their eyes met, neither spoke. There was no need to say goodbye. They both knew this wasn't the end. This was merely a pause, a breath held in anticipation of what was to come. Back in New York, amidst the towering skyscrapers and the comforting routine, Emily couldn't shake off the feeling that California was now a part of her. The memory of Ryan's smile, the echo of his laughter, they were all a part of her now. The city that had once felt like a cage now seemed like home. And as the seasons changed, so did Emily. The whispers of the ocean, the scent of the California sun, they all lingered around her like a second skin. One day, as she sat by her window, watching the city awaken to a new day, she saw it, a postcard in her mailbox. On it, a picture of a crashing wave, the kind Ryan loved to photograph. On the back, a familiar handwriting, the same handwriting that had once poured his heart out on a paper, confessing his love for her. The words were simple, yet they held the promise of an eternity. "Come back to me," they read. "I'll always be waiting for you at the intersection of our love." And as the final words sank in, Emily knew she had a decision to make. A choice between the life she had always known and the love that had found her, a love that had bloomed on the other side of the country, a love that was worth fighting for. Would she choose the comfort of familiarity or the excitement of the unknown? Would she chase after the love that had dared to whisper its name in the chaos of New York City? The answer, A quiet whisper from the depths of her soul led her to pack her bags, leaving behind the life that had become too small for her dreams. With every step she took, she felt the city's energy resonate with her own, its vibrant chaos a symphony to her ears. New York had been her haven, but it was time to rewrite her story. From the moment they met, there was a spark between them. It was one of those connections that you can't explain, one of those feelings that you can't deny. It was a rainy Saturday afternoon when Emily first walked into Ryan's bookstore, the bell above. The door chimed, pulling his attention away from the novel he was reading. He looked up and saw her. She was beautiful, with hair the color of honey and eyes that sparkled like the stars. Emily was searching for a first edition of her favorite book, Pride and Prejudice. She had a feeling that this store might have it, and she was right. Ryan helped her find it, and as their fingers brushed, there was a jolt of electricity between them. They laughed awkwardly, not quite sure what to say. Ryan wanted to keep talking to her, but he wasn't sure how. Then he had an idea. He offered her the book, hoping that she would take it, but Emily insisted that he take it. He refused, so they sat down at the little cafe inside the bookstore and shared it one page at a time. Hours passed like minutes. They talked about everything: books, music, art, photography, dreams, fears, childhood memories. They discovered that they had a shared love for classic literature. Old movies and long walks on the beach. They talked about their aspiration, their goals, their dreams for the future. As the afternoon turned into evening, they didn't want the conversation to end. They knew that they had something special, a connection that went beyond just a shared love of books. When Emily finally had to leave, she thought she'd never see him again. But Ryan had already decided he wasn't going to let her slip away. He asked for her number, and she gave it to him, not wanting to hide her smile. From that moment, they were inseparable. For the next 3 weeks, they explored Los Angeles together. They went on hikes in Griffith Park, where they took in the breathtaking views of the city and the Hollywood sign. They spent nights on Santa Monica Pier, riding the Ferris wheel and playing games, winning prizes for each other. They chased sunsets on the beach, hand in hand, watching the sky turn from blue to purple to orange. They had picnics in the park, reading poetry to each other and sharing their dreams for the future. They took long drives down the Pacific Coast Highway, singing along to their favorite songs and making memories that felt like they'd known each other forever. There was never a dull moment with Ryan. He was always coming up with new ways to keep their dates exciting and memorable. One day they visited the Griffith Observatory, where they learned about the constellations and planets while gazing through the telescope. Another day they took a class together, learning how to paint watercolor landscapes. They also spent a day at Disneyland, where they rode roller coasters, played arcade games and watched the fireworks display. But as the 3 weeks came to an end, Emily's heart sank. She had to return to New York, and the thought of being apart from Ryan was unbearable. On her last day in LA, they went to Venice Beach to watch the sunset one last time. As they stood there, hand in hand, watching the sun dip below the horizon, they knew that something special had happened between them. They had fallen in love. The moment Emily had to leave, Ryan drove her to the airport. They said their goodbyes, promising to stay in touch. As Emily boarded the plane, she couldn't stop thinking about Ryan. She knew that the miles wouldn't be easy, but she was willing to try anything to make it work. Back in New York, Emily and Ryan made plans to visit each other as often as they could. They video called each other every day, talking for hours. They sent each other care packages filled with their favorite snacks and souvenirs from their travels. And when they finally got to see each other again, it was like no time had passed at all. Their love only grew stronger with the distance. The cafe was bustling with the usual Saturday morning crowd. The air was filled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and sweet pastries. Yet none of it mattered to Emily. She sat staring into the depths of her latte, her mind a swirling vortex of thoughts and feelings. It had been 3 months since she'd last seen Ryan. 3 months of stolen moments over the phone, of whispered secrets through video calls, of feeling his absence like a phantom limb. It hadn't always been like this. Oh no. At first, the distance had been a mere whisper in the background, a gentle hum that couldn't drown out the melody of their love. They'd spoken for hours on end, their voices echoing with the magic of newfound romance. Love letters had been their poetry, video chats at 3 a.m. their nightly ritual. The miles between them had been nothing but a number, a mere formality to be dismissed with a wave of their hands. But then reality had crept in, slithering into their paradise like a serpent. Missed calls, unanswered texts, the constant gnawing of jealousy. The distance, once a number, became a chasm, a gaping void that threatened to swallow their love whole. Then came the night that shattered everything. A bitter argument, harsh words spoken, tears shed. Emily remembered hanging up the phone. Her heart a leaden weight in her chest. He'd thought, maybe it wasn't meant to be. Maybe some loves were just too fragile to survive the test of time and distance. For weeks after that, there was silence. No calls, no texts, no desperate attempts to make amends. Emily had thrown herself into her work, burying herself under piles of paperwork and late-night deadlines. Ryan, she assumed, had moved on. How could he not? He was young, handsome and charming, qualities that would attract anyone. Emily, on the other hand, felt frozen in her pain, unable to move forward, yet afraid to look back. And yet, as the weeks turned into months, something kept pulling her back to him. Memories, shared jokes, inside stories, the echo of his laughter in her ears. She found herself smiling at these memories, the pain of their separation momentarily forgotten. It was as if Ryan had carved a piece of her heart and kept it with him all those miles away. One evening, while aimlessly scrolling through social media, Emily stumbled upon a video call. There he was, Ryan. His face illuminated by the soft glow of his phone screen. His smile, once so familiar, now felt like a distant star, beautiful from afar, but just out of reach. As she watched, mesmerized, a single tear rolled down her cheek. She missed him. God, how she missed him. The next day, Emily found herself at the airport, clutching a ticket in her hand. The destination, Ryan's city. The flight took off, carrying with it Emily's hopes and dreams for a future with Ryan. As the plane soared through the clouds, she couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. What if he'd moved on? What if all those months of silence had been a sign? What if this trip was a futile journey into the abyss of lost love? Upon arrival, Emily's worst fears were confirmed. Ryan had indeed moved on. He was happy, healthy and in love with someone else. In that moment, Emily's carefully constructed world crumbled around her. The pain of rejection hit her like a tidal wave, threatening to drag her under its turbulent depths. Yet amidst the wreckage of her shattered dreams, a new resolve began to stir within Emily. It was the realization that while love could transcend distance, it couldn't conquer all. With newfound clarity, Emily turned back to her life, determined to rebuild, to find happiness anew. The distance that had once seemed insurmountable now appeared bridgeable. She knew in her heart that she deserved someone who could love her not in spite of the distance, but because of the depth of their connection, someone who wouldn't just say they loved her, but would prove it every step of the way. Months later, on a snowy December night, Emily walked through Times Square. She was bundled in her scarf, lost in her thoughts when suddenly she froze. There he was, Ryan, standing in the middle of New York City with a camera around his neck, snow in his hair and a smile on his face. She couldn't believe her eyes. It had been months since she'd last seen him, months of wondering about him, missing him, hoping to see him again. And now here he was, as if he'd never left. Time seemed to stop. The bustling crowd around them faded away and all that Emily could see was Ryan. He took a step towards her, his smile widening. "I couldn't stay away," he said, his voice a warm, familiar sound. And in that moment, all the distance, all the pain, all the loneliness of the past few months melted away. Emily burst into tears and ran into his arms. It was the most wonderful, most unexpected reunion. As they stood there embracing, the city lights twinkled around them, the sound of carols filling the air. It felt like a scene from one of those cheesy Christmas movies Emily loved so much, except this was real life. And as cliché as it sounded, Emily knew in that moment that this was exactly where she was supposed to be. Exactly where she was meant to be with him. They pulled away from each other slowly, both a little breathless. Emily could feel her cheeks flushing, not just from the cold, but from the emotions that threatened to overwhelm her. She wanted to ask a million questions, to hear about everything he'd been doing. How he'd been, what he'd been up to. But the words wouldn't come out. All she could manage was a shaky, "You're here." Ryan chuckled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "I am. And I'm really, really glad to be here." He paused, looking at her, really looking at her, and Emily felt a warmth spread through her chest. It was the same look he used to give her, the one that made her knees weak and her heart skip a beat. The one that had made her fall in love with him all those months ago. "How are you here?" Emily finally managed to ask, her voice still shaky. I thought you were in LA." Ryan grinned. "I came back a few weeks ago. I missed you." He said it so simply, so matter-of-factly that Emily's heart skipped a beat. Could this be? Was he really here because he missed her? Because he loved her? Before she could question it further, Ryan took a step closer, his eyes searching hers. "Emily, he began, then stopped, hesitated. And in that moment, Emily's hopes soared. Could this be it? Could he be here to tell her that he loved her too, that he wanted to be with her? But Ryan's next words brought her crashing back down to reality. "I need your help." His voice was serious now, his eyes pleading. "I know this is probably a lot to ask, but I was wondering if maybe you could move in with me." Emily stared at him, her mind racing. Move in with him? Was this what he was here for? But why? What did he need her for? Was it just for company? Or was there something more? Something in his eyes told her that it wasn't just about companionship. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant sounds of the city. Finally, Emily managed to find her voice. "Why? Why do you need my help?" Ryan took a deep breath. "Because I'm not the same without you. I need you here, with me." He reached out, his fingers brushing against her cheek. The touch sent shivers down her spine. "Please say yes. Please move in with me." Emily looked at him, really looked at him, at the man who was standing in front of her, the man who she loved with all her heart. She saw the vulnerability in his eyes, the raw honesty that was so endearing, so attractive. And in that moment, she knew what she had to do. She knew that she would do anything for him, anything to make him happy. Because that's what love was about, wasn't it? Not just about the grand gestures, but about the small, quiet moments, about being there for the person you loved, supporting them, helping them. "Yes," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, Ryan, I will move in with you." A wide grin spread across his face, his eyes shining with happiness. "Thank you, Emily. I love you." And as he pulled her into the tightest hug ever, Emily knew that she loved him too. Not a fairy tale, not a happily ever after, but a real-life love story that happened to a couple. It's a story about choices and sacrifices, dreams and reality. A story about two people who loved each other so much that they chose to let each other go. This is Emily and Ryan. They met at an art gallery. He was drawn to her passion, her drive, and most of all, her beautiful smile. She was drawn to his quiet confidence, his gentle heart, and those dreamy eyes of his. It was a classic tale of boy meets girl, except it wasn't a tale. It was their life. They fell in love over stolen glances and shy smiles, awkward first dates and comfortable silences. They built a life together in a city by the sea, a place where the waves crashed like their laughter and the sky stretched as endlessly as their love. But love stories aren't fairy tales. Life tested them again and again. Emily was offered her dream job, an art residency in Paris. Ryan was offered his dream job, a photography project in Tokyo. Two dreams, two paths, one choice. They had a painful decision to make. Would they chase their careers or would they chase each other? For a while, the path ahead seemed clear. They would both put their dreams on hold, stay in their city by the sea, holding on to each other like their lives depended on it because, Well, it felt like it did. Then reality hit. Emily couldn't bear the thought of her dreams being put on hold indefinitely. Ryan couldn't bear the thought of losing Emily. It tore them apart as they grappled with their feelings, their love for each other, their dreams, their fears. They talked for many nights, crying and holding each other, whispering sweet nothings and broken promises. They were a team, but this time there was no fight. No hurdle to overcome. This time it was just life, raw and brutal. Then one morning, as the sun rose over their city by the sea, they made a promise to each other, to their love, to their dreams. "We'll chase our dreams," Emily said, her voice shaking. "But we'll never stop chasing each other." It wasn't a goodbye, not really. It was a see you later. A promise of forever. They hugged, tears streaming down their faces, salty kisses on their cheeks, the taste of bittersweet forever. Then they let go. Emily left, taking a piece of Ryan's heart with her. Ryan stayed, keeping a piece of Emily's soul in his. Years passed. Emily's art became famous. Ryan's photos graced magazine covers. They chased their dreams. They chased each other too, through late-night calls and stolen weekends, through missed birthdays and canceled anniversaries. They held on to their love, nurtured it, cherished it, even from afar. One day, Emily's phone rang. On the other end was Ryan, his voice deeper now, more resonant. He was coming back to their city by the sea. They met at their usual spot, the place where their love story began. The years melted away. It was just Emily and Ryan, two souls reunited. As they walked by the sea, hand in hand, the waves crashing like their laughter, the sky stretching as endlessly as their love, they knew they had made the right choice. They had chased their dreams, and they had found each other again. Life isn't a fairy tale, but sometimes, just sometimes, it gives you a happily ever after. Thank you. The first time Emily saw Ryan in that bookstore in Los Angeles, she felt something she couldn't quite place. Maybe it was the way the afternoon sun hit his hair, making it glow like spun gold. Or maybe it was the crooked smile that crinkled his eyes at the corners as he talked about his favorite author. But when their fingers brushed as they both reached for the same book, she knew in that moment that something extraordinary had just happened. As the weeks turned into months, their bond deepened. They explored hidden cafes, cozy bookstores, and art galleries that showcased local artists. One rainy afternoon, as they sat by the window watching the city come alive with colorful umbrellas, Ryan turned to Emily, his smile soft. "You know," he said, his voice a low rumble, "I feel like I've known you forever." Emily blushed, her heart echoing his sentiment. "Me too," she whispered, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Just as their love story began to feel like the perfect novel, life took an unexpected turn. Ryan's photography career offered him an opportunity he couldn't refuse. A chance to travel the world and capture its beauty through his lens, while Emily's heart ached at the thought of being apart from Ryan. She knew this was a chance for him to follow his dreams. "Go," she whispered, her voice thick with tears. "Follow your dreams, Ryan. I'll be here when you come back." And so Ryan left, promising to return as soon as his journey allowed. But the months turned into years, and Emily's hope began to dwindle like the setting sun. She missed his goofy sense of humor, the way he made her laugh until her stomach hurt, and the feeling of his hand in hers, a constant source of comfort and strength. As the pain of Ryan's absence grew, Emily poured her heartache onto the canvas, her paintings becoming a testament to their love and her longing, each stroke of her brush a silent prayer that one day her love would find its way back to her. Meanwhile, Ryan's travels took him to the most breathtaking places: the Eiffel Tower in Paris, the ancient ruins of Rome, the bustling markets of Marrakesh. He climbed the Great Wall of China, trekked through the Amazon, and swam in the clear waters of the Maldives. Through it all, he carried a piece of Emily's love in his heart, a reminder of the beautiful life they shared in Los Angeles. His camera clicked incessantly, capturing not just the scenic beauty around him, but also the essence of the people he met, their smiles, their laughter, their hopes, and their dreams. All of it was a tribute to the woman who had stolen his heart. One evening, While showcasing his work at a gallery in Paris, a renowned art collector noticed Emily's painting. Captivated by its raw emotion and the undeniable talent it displayed, the collector decided to find the artist. As fate would have it, he tracked down Emily in a small cafe in Los Angeles, the very place where Ryan had first told her how much he loved her. The collector, moved by Emily's story and touched by the depth of her art, offered to host a joint exhibition, showcasing both Ryan's photographs and Emily's paintings. And so it was that years later, Emily and Ryan stood together at a gallery in Paris. On the walls hung Ryan's photographs, all of them featuring Emily. In the center of the room was Emily's painting of the day they met in that bookstore in Los Angeles. Hand in hand, they looked at each other, smiling through tears. They had survived distance, heartbreak, and time. Because when love is real, no ocean, no miles, no years can destroy it. And in that moment, they knew this wasn't just a love story. This was forever.